Okay.
Okay, we are live, and I'm going to call to order the January 19th meeting of the Quality of Life Committee. Elizabeth, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Councillor Cassette, Chair.
Here.
Councillor Villarreal.
Present.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Present.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Here.
Councillor Chavez.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff?
There are two items that'll be pulled this evening, Madam Chair. It's item C and item D. Item C is the fire restriction 22-1, and item D is a resolution in support of the appropriations of funds by the New Mexico legislature for New Mexico grown fresh fruits and vegetables. These items were not ready, so therefore they're pulled.
Thank you, Loretta. Any other changes from the committee? Nope. If not, can I please get a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Elizabeth, can you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Councillor Villarreal.
Yes.
Councillor Michael Chavez.
Michael Garcia, maybe?
I'm sorry, Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Chavez.
Yes.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes, and excuse me. I guess I have jitters for a new committee. I don't know. I've done this a million times.
No problem. No problem at all. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled? Councilwoman Villarreal. Renee.
I'd like to pull F as in Frank. Sorry, I was muted.
I jumped
All
into
right. I don't feel so bad now.
Councillor Chavez.
I will need to pull H because I will be recusing myself from voting on that item today.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull item A as an apple.
Okay, so I have A, F, and H pulled from the consent agenda. Oh, Councillor Lee Garcia.
I'd like to pull H. I'm sorry, E.
E.
H is already been pulled.
Okay, I have A, E, F, and H pulled from the consent agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve as amended?
Move to approve as amended.
And a second?
Second, Lee Garcia.
Thank you. Elizabeth, can you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Councillor Villarreal.
Yes.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Chavez.
Yes.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first are from the December 1st, 2021 Quality of Life Committee. Are there any changes from staff? And any changes from the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can we please get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Councillor Villarreal.
Yes.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Chavez.
Yeah.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Garcia, is that an old hand?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. And now moving on to the second set of minutes from the November 3rd, 2021 Quality of Life Committee. Do we have any changes from staff? And any changes from committee? And if not, can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can we please have another roll call?
Yes, Councillor Villarreal.
Yes.
Councillor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Chavez.
Yes.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to presentations. Our first is going to be from the Human Services Committee presenting their 2021 strategic plan. Val Alacaron is presenting, and I believe Julie is here as well. So I will pass it along to you guys.
Thank you so much, Chair Cassett and the Quality of Life Committee members. I have quite the crew here with me representing the Youth and Family Services Division, as well as the work of the Human Services Committee. Val Alcaron, who is our consultant working with the committee on the strategic plan, is here. We also have Ariana Trott, who's one of our data consultants working through Aspen Solutions, who will also be here to stand for questions. Krista Hernandez is my newest hire, and she's the Youth and Family Services Program Manager, overseeing the Human Services Committee as well as the Children and Youth Commission. So with that, Val is going to be presenting. So if she can please be able to share her screen, that'll be a lot of help. And Val, I'll go ahead and let you take it from there. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone, and Happy New Year's. And thank you to the Quality of Life Committee members and City Council members for this opportunity to present. I realize we have a very limited time, a very packed agenda, so I'm going to be laser focused here to be of most efficiency. And I'm going to present. Okay. What's going on? Takes a little bit to load. My apologies. All righty. Welcome to the City of Santa Fe Human Services Committee Strategic Action Plan, this next cycle of 2022 through 2025. For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to be focusing on three specific key areas, presenting you the key priority areas, driving attention to the indicators as to where HSC has made improvements and where opportunities remained, and also some policy change recommendations that they're looking to work on in partnership with the city. Before we dive into that, we want to acknowledge HSC membership, our chair, our vice chair, and all of the members, as well as our liaisons at the City of Santa Fe. This work could not be a possibility without all these amazing, talented, deeply committed partners. Speaking of, we have some key partners here, as well as our consulting partners and our grantees who are on the ground, in the front lines, providing these critical services and actualizing the impact that we want to see in our community, in our city. I'm sorry, this little presentation sometimes is sensitive as to where we click with the mouse. My apologies. Oh dear, okay. Quick reference to the resolution, which was put into place in 1987. The vision and mission of HSC to build and strengthen community capacity to address the most critical community health and wellness needs and improve outcomes for adults and families throughout the city of Santa Fe. We're going to fly through some of these. The strategic plan of action for HSC is deeply rooted in the results-based accountability framework, which I'm going to provide a very quick overview of what that is, what it looks like. We start with an end result in mind. What is the impact that we're looking to affect in the city of Santa Fe? We identify program and services that will actualize that kind of an impact. We have performance measures, systems in place to assess the efficacy and track the improvements of these services. We work very closely with grantees, organizations, and programs in addressing specific issues within the city, which also begin to inform the type of indicators that have been affected within specific priorities, which then actualizes the end result. And the key priorities that HSC is, I'm sorry, let me back up. The result we are seeking here, the end result, is for an equitable access for the people of Santa Fe to a happy, a healthy, safe, and thriving life. And the key priority areas that HSC is focused on is adult health, behavioral health, community health, and an equitable society. And so what we want to bring attention to is the conditions that HSC has been able to improve as a collective effort here. In the areas of adult health, we've seen improvements in diabetes diagnoses. In behavioral health, there remains lots of opportunities for improvement moving forward. Within the community health sector, we've made improvements in the fall-related deaths. And within the equitable society sector, we've made improvements in and around food insecurity, adults with college education, access to broadband connection, and access to computers within households, because also in the last couple of years, as we all know, that's become even more imperative with people working from home, with kids going to school from, virtual schools, schooling and so forth. The conditions that remain that need improvement within the adult health arena, improvements in and around diabetes related deaths, addressing obesity, increasing uninsured insurance for people in the city of Santa Fe. Within behavioral health, we're looking to address mental distress, decrease suicide, address alcohol-related deaths, and address drug overdose related deaths. And within the community health arena, obviously looking to continue to address the homelessness, priority here, domestic violence, and within equitable society, to increase employment within our community. And within the broader context of policy changes, these are some of the full list. These are some of the recommendations. The full list is in the strategic action plan document, which is a very robust document. But here are some highlights. The first one would be to collaborate closely with the city of Santa Fe and other key partners to improve the funding in support of and access to affordable housing, improving the insurance navigation system, also improving the public health mitigation awareness, revitalizing low-income neighborhoods. That is also going to require a bit of collaboration with the city and other key partners. Improving the data integration between the city, the county, the grantees, foundations, and key partners so that we minimize duplication of work and that we're streamlining the data tracking, and also in that data tracking, capturing disparity indicators that are very specific and unique to the city of Santa Fe, as well as, last but not least, implementing a career pathway to improve our workforce through certification, licensing programs, and training programs specific to the needs of the city of Santa Fe. It goes without saying, COVID-19 has really made the invisible even more visible, and the community has been dealing with challenges, obviously, like food insecurity, lack of affordable housing, lack of childcare services, and access to affordable insurance prior to COVID-19. And although these appear to be emerging challenges, the reality is too that these have been very much present in the city of Santa Fe prior to, before the pandemic. That being said, affordable and accessible housing remains a top priority for HSC, obviously the city of Santa Fe. And the Human Services Commission is looking to collaborate with the city's Office of Affordable Housing and other key partners to improve access and availability of affordable and safe housing for all people in Santa Fe. Other emerging priorities that HSC has been looking at and will be working on addressing is in and around rent and mortgage and utility support, obviously improving childcare services, addressing the lack of professional care for infants and toddlers, addressing the lack of licensed professionals and the inequitable wages that do exist. Within the senior and elderly care and support, this is a subpopulation of our communities that we need to improve services, essential services for their well-being and health. Language barriers is also another opportunity for HSC and partners to improve on making sure that resources and services are provided in English, Spanish, and other native languages that are most relevant to our community to bridge that gap. Mental and behavioral health care, making sure that that we have a robust set of providers and services available to our community. On food insecurity, SNAP is being rolled back, and so increasing food resources for our most affected members of our community is essential. And obviously ensuring broadband and Wi-Fi connection to support our low-income communities, particularly with that accessibility, so that they can, work from home, attend school, and pursue their continuing education, online certifications available to them. Legal aid is another significant focus, especially for addressing domestic violence, immigration issues, child custody, renters issues, and so forth. There's a whole report on emerging priorities from grantees that is, available in the actual strategic plan that you can refer to when you have more time. Other emerging priorities that are specific to COVID-19 era, and I want to close out by saying that HSC is partnered with the Children and Youth Commission as well. They have shared priorities, and HSC is also part of the Connect Wellness, that partnership between the city of Santa Fe and the Santa Fe County as well. So obviously really looking for all the collaborative opportunities to continue to leverage this work and the impact that it will make in the lives of our community members in the city of Santa Fe. And so I thank you all for your time today. And if there are any questions, I believe, Julie, if someone is facilitating that, I'm happy to support in that capacity as well. Thank you all so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Val. Can you stop? Oh, perfect. So you can see everybody. Are there any questions from the committee? Councilwoman Villarreal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the great work of our city team, for the Youth and Family Services Division, and also for the Human Services Committee. Appreciate the presentation and also the consultants. Thank you very much, Valeria Alarcon. We need to make sure we get her last name right. I just had, I actually read the strategic plan, and remind us the timeframe that this plan will, this strategic plan, is there a timeframe that it will hold up, I guess, until we reassess it again? I'm not sure who, I guess Julie, yes, Director.
Councilwoman.
Director Sanchez, should I call you that, Director Sanchez? Yes.
Please don't. So the Human Services Strategic Plan is going to be, it's a very fluid document. We review it pretty much every year as part of our ordinance for the 2% GRT that we receive for funding our nonprofit providers. And so it will be good essentially for this upcoming grant cycle, which is a 3-year grant cycle. But again, it's a fluid document. We review it every year, and the committee makes recommendations on if changes need to happen, or if out of some miracle we're out of COVID and maybe that's not a priority anymore. There's opportunities to revise and change the strategic plan.
Great. Yeah, I've just wanted to, for the new counselors, what that document looks like, and then it coincides with our 3-year grant cycle. So the next grant cycle will be this year, starting in which month?
That's correct. We have a very hopeful date, and I'm looking at Krista's face right now, of releasing funding early February to make sure that there's enough time for our nonprofit provider partners to apply and get questions asked, given the new procurement process the city's adopted.
Right. So the funding will be released. So the RFP has already gone out. Is that what you're saying? No,
It will go out early February.
got it. Got it. Okay. And then the process of grant making will occur in March or around there, or April?
The hope is that Councilor Chair Cassett, Councilor Villarreal, the hope is that we'll have a 30-day application period at which the committee will review applications, receive applications, with them making recommendations come their next meeting in April. So that's the timeline that we're shooting for. We have some room in case that doesn't happen, but that's what we're set up to hopefully do.
Excellent. And then that will go to the governing body for final approval after the committee makes recommendations?
Following the ordinance, that's correct.
Great, thank you. There were a lot of areas that I was interested in about priority areas, but because of my work with the foundation that actually does grant making, I'm curious what has changed, because I know I get a lot of grumblings from people about streamlining our grant processes at the city. And obviously there's a procurement piece that makes it a little bit more bureaucratic, but is there anything you'd want to share with us about anything that you all have changed since the last grant cycle that may be more efficient for folks applying?
That's a great question. So Chair Cassett, Councilman Villarreal, we are not actually doing an RFP this year. So we got approval to do an RFA, which is a request for application, which our hope is that it'll streamline the process. It'll make things a lot easier for agencies to apply for funding. A huge shout out to, I'll call her Director Ladd and her team for advocating for getting that passed and approved. They'll be doing something similar with their affordable housing funding. And so we're following suit. The hope is the application process will be easy and much more streamlined. We've also been in discussions. Yeah, I'll leave it at that because nothing has been fully finalized yet. But we are hoping that the application process will be easier and that we're going to a 3-year contract, which is fantastic for some of our agencies and may potentially have contracts that are longer than that. So I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to share too much publicly until we get everything approved.
That's great. That's great to know. So the contracts will last 3 years, like they do for the grant cycle, like they did initially, correct?
So that is something new. In previous years, our grant cycle was only 1 year, and moved to 2 years. And now with the blessing of the committee, we're at 3 years.
Great. That'll be easier on staff as well. So looking forward to that and glad that you all are able to have a more streamlined, efficient process. And I'm sure our nonprofit partners will be happy about that as well. And great job. If I have any other questions related to strategic plan details, I'll get a hold of staff. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just really have a couple of questions, or one question really. So the whole idea of the Human Services Committee here and this division of the city is obviously to help people who are in need, right? And what is the best plan for constituents? And I'm just going to asking from a counselor that dealt with the person today who had a question about housing. They've had a lot of trouble getting into housing. So how do they get to your department, and which is the best avenue for us to be able to help them get to the right people? And I know that's probably related to what we're discussing here, but it's just a new counselor question.
So Chair Cassett, Councilor Lee Garcia, that's a wonderful question. Our division, even though it's called Youth and Family Services, we handle a lot of different people-related issues. I'll call it that. One of the really exciting partnerships and projects that was touched on a little bit in the presentation was our Connect network. And Connect Network really is it's a network where the city and county partnered that has roughly about 200 or so navigators that work with our constituents to get them connected to services and resources in our community to thrive. And so that's really a really excellent place to refer folks who come to you for possible services. There's a forward-facing platform that folks can access to do their own self-referral into the platform, and that's actually hosted on the city website at santafenm.gov/connect. There's also a wonderful partnership that we've developed with our local 211 through United Way of Central New Mexico. So now constituents can just call 211 and also be connected into Connect to be able to access resources in Santa Fe.
Thank you. And then I guess a follow-up question to that is, I mean, you obviously have done some research in terms of what the percentage of, I guess, how well is it working out for people? And obviously you get calls asking for assistance, and how have you seen this program be able to help the majority and not just the, minority? And again, we want to see programs working, and what is the end result? And I heard that in your presentation, your end result in certain areas, and I was glad to see that slide. So I do appreciate that. And so I guess the question would be is, how often are you seeing people being helped all the way through the process versus, I can't get anywhere with your department?
So Councilor Garcia, it's really interesting you ask that. As part of our Connect network, the county was really looking at doing an in-depth evaluation of how folks were utilizing public services. And when I say that, I mean, ER and jail usage as a way of a cost benefit analysis, essentially, and seeing if folks are better off using the Connect network. And what ended up happening was COVID kind of threw a wrench in our evaluation of that particular program. And so what we're going to do is wait at least another year or two in order to fully evaluate that program and see the outcomes of folks being able to use that program, not only on jail and ER usage, but also on just getting the resources they need to stabilize in the community. In terms of our other additional performance measures and outcomes, Aspen Solutions, Ariana's here representing them, can also give information on the data that we're gathering on the performance of our agencies and how those are impacting our community. And Kira, feel free to add anything else as well.
Thank you, Julie. Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia, thanks for the question. It's the right question. Are we actually doing anything with this program and these funds? And we did serve about 2,500 people in the Connect network last year. That doesn't include all the people who got direct cash assistance from our CARES fund. That was about 12,000 people. We are finding that the direct cash assistance is very powerful for helping people. We get a lot of feedback from the people who get that about what they were able to do. So we are collecting that information, although we haven't, as Julie said, been able to do a full evaluation yet. And then we asked all of the agencies within Connect to use a care coordination system called Unite Us, and that has the ability to track who's getting referred, whether agencies are picking up those referrals and actually helping people or not. And if we have to work with individual partners in the Connect network to encourage them to actually follow through on referrals. We also learn when they can't, when they're at capacity and they don't have the ability because they don't have staff or funding. And that allows us to target our funding to them to make it a better experience. The whole reason we started the project, there's so many great helping agencies in Santa Fe. They weren't always connected and people were falling through the cracks, and they still do. But at least we're finding a way to track that, to hopefully improve that. And as Julie said, Ariana from Aspen can talk about the way we measure some of the outcomes in the performance measures.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia. We have been working with all of the agencies that the city funds to build their data development and data capacity. And as Val kindly alluded to, we've been using the results-based accountability process. So each individual agency has specific performance measures as well that we are working on and building that capacity. And we have many qualitative stories as well as some quantitative data around the social determinants of health that demonstrate some of those outcomes. And we'd be happy to share some of that information with you as well.
I'm good with that. But thank you very much for all that important information. I'll go ahead and yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor, can you please take your hand down? Councilor Lee Garcia. Thank you. Any other questions from any other members of the committee? I don't believe so. Well, thank you all so much for the presentation and for all of your work. This is really hard, challenging issues that you are working on, and we so appreciate the focus from the Human Services Committee and really working on these areas. So we look forward to hearing more updates as you have them, and good to see everybody. All right, we are moving on to our next presentation. Getting back to my agenda. So a Midtown Progress Report, the community development presentation. I have Rich Brown here to present, and then I don't know if we have everybody who's been let in who needs to be let in. So Rich, I will let you manage that.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to you and to the rest of the council. I'm going to turn it over to Alexandra Ladd, Director Ladd, to run the presentation, but I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to make this presentation about community development. So some of our key project managers are here, along with Michael Pride from UNM Deepak, who is going to host and moderate the team that's here. We have about 9 of our MAP partners, I think, but 3 will be key presenters. So with that, I say thank you, and then I'll turn it over to Director Ladd, and she will start us off.
Thank you, Rich. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thanks so much for giving us time to talk tonight and to present some of the amazing work and amazing partners that the city's working with to do this public engagement work at Midtown. I wanted to start really quickly and kind of revisit why we're doing it this way and what our goals are for this process, both for the benefit of our new counselors, and welcome, but also just because I think it's really important that we keep reminding ourselves that we're aiming for the stars here. You know, we are trying to really reinvent how the city does public engagement, particularly around a property like this that's so important and kind of at the heart of our city, literally, physically, geographically, but also just contains so many memories for so many people. So with that said, just as a quick reminder, I think it was 2018, the city began a public engagement process for what redevelopment of the Midtown campus could look like. The process, it was fun. There were lots of fun activities, lots of meetings, a very long survey was sent out. And the response rate was great. There were a lot of responses. The people who participated were super enthusiastic about the participation, and the work that came out of it resulted in our planning guidelines, which have served us as we move forward with this project to help guide us and to create some accountability for the work at this site. But what it didn't do was capture all of the voices in our community. And when we looked at the demographics of the people who had participated, they were remarkably older, affluent, educated, and white. And we decided that the next round of engagement had to be done differently because the city's process, and I want to commend the staff that worked on that earlier process. They engaged a lot of different creative methodologies and activities, but we're just not, as a city government, we're just not set up to do really great public engagement that captures all of those unheard voices and the quiet voices and the voices who don't speak English. So this is years now in the making. Daniel and I started talking about it. We started meeting with foundations. We asked the question, is there any appetite for helping us fund something that will be done differently, that will come from the community itself, that will reflect the actual needs of the participants who may not feel comfortable or may not even know about some of these activities without a network that they trust, that they can engage with. So with that, we also started realizing that other things had to happen, right? People needed to be compensated for their participation. The activities needed to also have food and have childcare and have translation and have all of these things that the city frankly tries but doesn't always do such a great job of. So that became sort of our concept. And we also then realized that we were going to need an agency to kind of knit together this concept and to sort of herd the cats, really, because it takes a lot of work to manage a lot of really energetic, inspiring, innovative groups of people. And we knew at the city we didn't have that capacity. So that's where Deepak, and this is the Design, Planning, and Assistance Center at UNM's Planning School, Deepak came in to also bring an academic lens to the exercise so that what comes out of this isn't a report that sits on a shelf, but is actually a set of tools for the city to use to moving forward to make sure that all of our engagement around this site, but also around other sites and around other land uses and around other decisions about resources and who gets them and who benefits from them and whose voice is heard, that all of these future processes would also be informed and guided by the work that's done here at the campus now. So with that said, I will introduce Michael Pride with the Design, Planning, and Assistance Center, and she will introduce the Midtown Engagement Partners. And you will be amazed at all of the incredible work and all of the activities and everything that's come out of this process so far. It's truly inspiring. All right, Michael, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Chair Cassett and Alexandra Ladd and everyone, all counselors, members of the committee. We're really happy to be here with you tonight to share what's been happening. I'm a little concerned that Alexandra may have overpromised. You know, I wanted you to be surprised, right? But it really has been quite an honor to be involved in this project, and we really appreciate the trust that the city has had in this team and the the commitment to a truly different way of working in Santa Fe. We believe that that Santa Fe is creating a model for other communities around the country. So we're really excited about that. So let's see, I think I have screen sharing ability. Thank you. We're really excited to have this opportunity to come back and share our progress in public engagement to let you know how things are going and address any questions you might have. We've presented previously to the governing body, and in those presentations, we outlined the purpose of this work, our unique approach that we've been co-developing with all of you and the Midtown engagement partners for an equitable and community-driven approach to public engagement. This presentation really highlights our Midtown engagement partners, 9 community-based organizations that are dedicated to contributing to and improving quality of life for all Santa Feans. Their efforts and connections are key to this community-led engagement process around Midtown. What we want to share with you tonight is really introduce the Midtown engagement partners, including the the partners that were added in round 2. You have not met them yet in this public forum, and provide some insights, highlights, and data from the multiple surveys, the big joint events, the Midtown Block Party in October and the Pozolada in December, a summary of the other activities, because these Midtown engagement partners, these organizations have been working maybe less visibly in their communities with community members who trust them to really ask these deep questions. We want to share with you what we've heard from the people who participated in these activities, and then finally give you a timeline about where we are, what's ahead, and discuss the additional opportunities for ongoing public engagement. Our Deepaks contract with the city is organized in phases, and they're laid out here with a timeline about the quarters of the year. We are now obviously in Q1 of 2022. And here's where we think we are. We spent the early months of this contract getting to know people, building relationships, and that resulted in our being able to partner with local community-based organizations. And with them, we co-created a community-driven engagement program, and really relying heavily on these partners to engage community members in multiple different and effective ways, and collecting a lot of data. It sounds funky, but we hope we have fun too. And we've just kind of rounding out a first layer of analysis of that data and some synthesis leading to the findings and goals for community development at Midtown that we'll share probably next month. So here is the whole team. As we mentioned, UNM Deepak has a public engagement or a contract or a professional services agreement with the city for public engagement. And part of that, as Alexandra said, included partnering with local communities, really leveraging their dedication, their connection, and their experience and expertise. In round 1, we brought on Chainbreaker Collective, Youthworks, EarthCare, Santa Fe Art Institute, and Little Globe. And then later, we had an open RFP process that ended up leading to funding for these 4 organizations: the Santa Fe Indigenous Center, Friends of the Santa Fe Public Library, Fathers New Mexico, and La Familia Medical Center. And now we introduce these to you. Each organization will speak for themselves and share highlights of the ways that they've been working in their communities, ongoing, the ways they've engaged community in the questions of Midtown. And I'll turn it over to Karen Buller, who I hope is here.
I am here.
Right.
Ha Heights, Ha Tui. Good evening, I'm Karen Buller with the Santa Fe Indigenous Center. Welcome to Oga Poge. As a Comanche, I'm pleased to address you peacefully tonight from Tewa land. The next slide. The Santa Fe Indigenous Center started in 2018. And the next slide. Last year, we gave emergency financial assistance to over 200 Native families who needed assistance because they had lost jobs or needed rent, utilities, or other emergency needs. We distributed over $85,000 for these emergencies. We give food out every other week, and last year we served over 4,000 Native family members with food. The next slide. You can see by these slides that we serve mostly local tribes, that is Pueblo people, but next Navajos, and then a mix of over 160 other tribes who live in Santa Fe as urban Indians. The next slide. I don't think you, oh yeah, you do, okay. We held 3 outdoor community gatherings to discuss our future in Midtown and to disseminate printed surveys. We also disseminated surveys on our Facebook page, our website, and our newsletter. We gathered over 200 surveys. We found unanimous support for a strong Native presence at Midtown now and for all time, and overwhelming support for powwow grounds at Midtown. Other suggestions from our surveys were a year-round art market, a community garden, affordable housing, affordable daycare, and offices for the Indigenous Center at Midtown. When asked if they thought that the city of Santa Fe was doing enough for Indigenous people, the vast majority answered no. Some respondents simply wanted respect. I urge our elected officials to consider how the First Americans can be shown respect in our town. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Hector with Fathers New Mexico. You're on mute.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here. My name is Hector Abdel-Daño. I'm a case manager for the Santa Fe area for Fathers New Mexico. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this. I had worked around the Midtown project a couple years ago before, but it was my first time doing it under my work for Fathers New Mexico. So I'm glad we were able to include the families we usually work with in this process and get their voices heard. We work with mostly young families, a lot of fathers, of course, and some whole families. And we explained to them what the project was about. And it was nice for them to hear this from an organization they already know and they work with and they trust. So it was good to have their voices. So in this report, you'll have several of our families that answer the survey, and you'll have young moms, young single moms, low-income families, immigrant families, Spanish-speaking only families. So yeah, this is not like Alexandria said. This is not your typical engagement. We really went outside the box and engaged those people that are usually left out of things like this. And when public input is asked for, some of these families don't engage or are not targeted. And I'm glad we were presented with the opportunity to have them included. And yeah, thanks again. And we hope you really take everything we're going to present into consideration and listen to the voices of these families. And Michael, if you can help me out, I'm not sure who I need to pass it to.
To Yasil next at La Familia Medical Center. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Yasil. I am one of the one of the community care coordinators at La Familia Medical Center. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Michael. For our project, we titled it Your Place, Your Health, Your Voice. Main objective was to ask people what they would like to see in the Midtown area that would better their overall health. You could go to the next slide, please. The format that we used was community asset mapping, which is a, we all know that is a strength-based approach to community development. Our goal, once again, was to try to find out what are the needs and barriers surrounding here in Santa Fe in general, and what people would like to see. And the main question, like I said, that we asked was, what would you like to see in the Midtown area that would better your health? If you could please go to the next slide. And just to give a little background, what we did was that we we gave people a sheet with those questions as well as a map. So we had them specifically map out what they would like to see specifically, or just simply write it out. And the people that we engaged was a mixture of all ages, from youth to people over the age of 75. And the majority were youth and women, as well as folks whose insurance status was Medicaid. And here are just a few of the race and ethnicity that we encountered. Next slide, please. And these were the main things that they came up with. So the main thing was a safe space, and not just necessarily a safe space where they don't get harmed, but also where they feel welcome. The youth and teen-centered teams really emphasize that here in Santa Fe isn't really much to do for them, and that they don't feel very welcome in those areas that are, or they're too expensive. Entertainment, black box theater, dental clinic, library, dog parks, all of these things that came up from our community members. Next slide. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Maria from the Santa Fe Public Library.
Thank you, Yaziel, and thank you, Matt and members of the committee. I'm Maria Sanchez Tucker, and I am the Library Division Director. And I'm here representing the Friends of the Santa Fe Public Library, the fundraising and advocacy arm that supports the Santa Fe Public Library system. So we are really pleased to be involved in this engagement process. And our engagement process project consisted of activities that explored the public perception for the need for a public library. And beyond the Folkelson Library, we wanted to also explore the idea of cultural opportunities for the Midtown space. And so we focused on collecting information about the need for a library space focused on collecting and documenting the history and culture of Santa Fe. If you want to go to the next slide. So in order to assess the need for cultural opportunities at Midtown, we provided an online survey. We provided a bilingual survey that was sent out to Midtown partners, cultural institutions, library staff, and members of the library. 63 individuals completed the survey. We also provided listening sessions. 2 listening sessions were offered via Zoom with a total of 34 attendees. And the first was focused on individuals who are employed by cultural institutions across Santa Fe. And the second was open to the public, and simultaneous Spanish translation was provided. And in addition to our listening sessions focusing on culture, we provided, in partnership with the Community Educators Network, workshops with youth. We conducted age-appropriate workshops at 3 schools, Atalaya Elementary, Milagro Middle School, and Santa Fe High School. And librarians attended and provided some workshop activities where we asked the kids to give us pictures or representations of their dream library. And if they could have a 21st century library, what would it look like? And it was just a really great time working with the students. And so we also talked to Santa Fe High School students and discussed the potential of the project. And we provided a survey to them. In addition, we supported the Pozolada and provided new books for that outreach event. So all of the summary documents with raw data will be provided, and we found some really rich information about what the public perceives as needing for a cultural repository, for making sure that we represent underrepresented voices in the history of Santa Fe. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Alma Rivera, and this evening I'm presenting on behalf of EarthCare. specifically on the work that has been done in the community and also what makes us a good fit for the Midtown Engagement Initiative. EarthCare is a community-based organization led by youth and families, organizing to build a healthy, just, and sustainable world. Membership consists of diverse representation, including youth, Indigenous elders, and BIPOC communities, low income and immigrant communities as well. Next slide, please. EarthCare has been the bridge to the community and schools, engaging youth in the Midtown development process. Yucca and EarthCare staff conducted in-person and virtual presentations, engaging over 1,800 students. 400 surveys were collected and many amazing ideas shared during our facilitated focus groups. Both the surveys and focus groups were offered bilingually. Next slide, please. Part of the strength of what EarthCare brings to this collaborative is the way we center our youth and families in our work. We honor culture and practice language justice, advocating for communities to take part in this community development process in their native language. We listen to their voices and also make sure that they are heard by decision makers. We see them as leaders, and it is necessary to have them included in the process and to honor their voices. Next slide, please. The other unique part of what EarthCare brings is the opportunities for ongoing engagement and leadership in this site's development. So through presentations and focus groups, like I mentioned, both youth and families have indicated their interest in staying involved and in guiding the development of their city, including the Midtown campus, but also the new teen center and other community development initiatives. I want to thank you so much this evening, Madam Chair and council members, for your time. EarthCare is honored to be part of this community collaborative, and we're looking forward to holding our community's voices at the center of this process. I would now like to pass it on to Jamie from SFAI.
Actually, I think it's Jay, Youthworks. Oh.
Yeah, I'm happy to go, unless Jamie's ready to go. No, it's all right. It's my slide. I'm going. Fair enough. All right. Well, good evening, Chairperson Cassett and Quality of Life Committee. Thank you for this opportunity to represent the Midtown Engagement Partners, Santa Fe Youthworks, and the community. Youthworks runs academic workforce development and case management programs designed to re-engage and wrap around youth and their families. Sorry about that. Our programs, including Youth Build USA and Youth Conservation Corps, provide education and hands-on work experiences while paying wages or stipends so our clients and their families can afford what they need or build savings for the next stages of their lives. We specialize, however, in shifting to the current needs of our clients in the community by participating in new and innovative projects such as this one, roadside meals distributions, and the first food parks in Santa Fe with 10 fruit trees planted at MLK and Dawson Parks. Youthworks was an excellent fit for this project and will be for future projects because our clients and their families largely fall within the project's primary audiences. We engaged our community through our current programs and those clients' families, email blasts at our new thrift store, at our mural project sites, and at our emergency shelter meals distribution locations. We provide services for an average of 1,200 youth each year, and we know how to build the rapport necessary for those youth and their families to trust us with their honest input. Thank you again for this time and this opportunity, and I'm gonna pass it to Michael so I don't get it wrong.
Thanks, Jay. I think Tomas from Chainbreaker is next.
Michael, there were still people in the waiting room, both Chainbreaker and SFAI.
They're in the waiting room. Can they be let in?
What's
Thank
the
you,
name?
Council.
Sure. We'll ask Alex to let the.
Yeah, what's the
Chainbreaker-
name?
Jamie
Chainbreaker.
Blosser.
And,
And probably just says Chainbreaker
yeah.
Collective.
Okay, there we go.
Media
Sorry
SFAI and
about that.
Chainbreaker Collective.
Right, it wasn't by their names. Sorry.
We're just waiting for him to accept.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Here we go. Michael, I think
Okay.
Tomas is here.
Here I am.
Tomas, yay.
Jamie is also waiting in there, and I want to free her as well. If we
Yeah,
can.
she's in.
Okay, very good. All right. Yes. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you for that. Sorry about the tech glitch. I'm Tomas Rivera with Chainbreaker Collective. Chainbreaker is a membership-led economic and environmental justice organization. We've been organizing in the areas surrounding Midtown for 17 years, which we just realized today. We have roughly about 800 dues-paying members, the bulk of whom are low-income people of color, and most who live in the neighborhood surrounding Midtown, particularly Hopewell Man. And you can just scroll through the slides. They're mostly just sort of pictures that jump into what we're doing. Chainbreaker has been, we've been organizing these neighborhoods all that time, but specifically around Midtown since 2018, when the issue really first came into play. We worked with Councilwoman Villarreal on the resolution that sort of created this Midtown engagement event or process here. We began working with a lot of the folks on the call who are part of the Midtown Engagement Partnership and a coalition of about a dozen other organizations here in Santa Fe to do outreach around Midtown. Since 2019, we knocked on 9,000 doors in the neighborhood. We did our own survey. We got about 3,000 of those surveys, and we did a series of panels and trainings and workshops leading up to a People's Assembly that happened in summer of 2019, which folks where there's about 150 people that showed up, prioritizing issues around Midtown, specifically linked to the Residents' Bill of Rights resolution. And so when we joined the Midtown Engagement Partnership, we continued to build off of that foundation that was set over those years, but to do it in collaboration with the rest of the groups, informal collaboration, because I think all of those groups were part of us, part of all of that lead up until then. So we all have those deep roots doing this work. I think we've done a series of trainings as well, workshops, house parties, and continue our canvassing and phone banking outreach. Over the course of the last several months when we've been doing this, we've talked to about, let me see, I have the number somewhere, I got lost. Several thousand phone calls. We knocked on 3,000 doors in the lead up to the Pozolada and the Midtown block party that happened as well. Also contributing to the surveys. And also part of the outreach we've been doing, as many of you all know, is related to evictions. A lot of the people that live in the surrounding neighborhoods of Midtown are renters and are in some of the highest risk areas for eviction. We did a series of reports on evictions during this time period. We partnered with the city, including the Department of Affordable Housing with Alexandra Ladd here, the city attorney's office as well, and some other local nonprofits, local and national nonprofits, to get a scope and scale of what the eviction crisis is related to COVID-19, and how that relates specifically to Midtown is reminding us that the areas surrounding Midtown, once again, are some of the most vulnerable to things like evictions and displacement. And as we come out of the pandemic, we want to make sure we have part of that consciousness. So that was really informing a lot of the outreach we have been doing with the Midtown Engagement Partnership as well. And these are just some pictures of some of the reports we've done, the eviction reports and the previous reports we've done, which are health impact assessment reports. One of which is this health, healing, and housing, which you see on the screen right now, is specifically talking about Midtown and is the follow-up to the People's Assembly in 2019 that we did, that really looks at the priority, particularly of community control, and really dives deep into what it could be possible there. So we would love to share that with you. If you haven't already read it, for some of the new city councilors, we will certainly be reaching out to you about that for in the next few weeks here. I think the culmination of a lot of our outreach with the Midtown Engagement Partnership came at the Pozolada, which was our annual event that we do every year. It's an event where we give bikes to kids and give pozole. Many of you have been there. This year, because of the second year that we've done it in COVID, and we really saw an opportunity to join in this partnership and expand into this grouping here. It wound up being a much bigger event. Councilwoman Villarreal and also Councilwoman Cassett were there speaking, along with the mayor, Councilor Garcia. Michael Garcia was also there to set up farolitos there early in the morning, one of the first people that showed up, as well as Alexandra Ladd was there, Liz Camacho was there, various other city folks were there. So it was really very much a collaborative event. We gave out several bikes. I know that that's going to be talking about later. Grocery bags, vaccines, I think pozole, of course, and bizcochitos. Really very much a collaborative event, and that really marked the closing of the public engagement process of gathering the input for people there. And so we were really happy to make that be a little end cap. And we're super excited about the community engagement process here. Having been so close to the ground from it and so long, it feels so deeply meaningful. One of the, we're hearing a lot about specific issues on the Midtown process property, what they want there, really about community control, about affordable housing, all of the things that we know about, and we will be talking about in the next several months and perhaps years. But I think the thing that we really wanted to just emphasize that we're getting from community members more than anything is just a real deep gratitude and appreciation for this process itself. People are really feeling like this is a really genuine effort and a genuine collaboration between these groups and the city, because it is. And we are aware how much that it represents a very real investment in both time and resources into this process. And so that is just really deeply appreciated. And it really has begun a long needed process of healing in the community around these issues. So I think that that's something that's really hard to quantify in reports, but it's something that I think is maybe some of the most important work that's been done here. And so with that, I will pass it to Jamie Blosser from SFAI.
Thank you, Tomas, and thank you so much, Madam Chair and councilors, for the opportunity to present some of what we've all been doing. The Santa Fe Art Institute, as most of you know, is an independent arts nonprofit. We are located on the Midtown property, and we're one of the few organizations still there. And as such, we are very invested in a vision for the site to continue serving the local community through the arts. Next slide, please. Thanks to a National Endowment for the Arts, our town grant, SFAI has been conducting cultural asset mapping and site activations over the last 2 years as strategies to engage adjacent neighborhoods and local artists in the entire Santa Fe community in the future of Midtown. Next. We developed the 6 Degrees of Connection project with our community liaisons, Esteban Real Galvez, Chrissy Orr, and Alicia Inez Guzman, and Tim Castillo from the UNM School of Architecture and Planning also helped us to create a website, cultureconnects.site, which we're really hoping can ultimately become a community archive. Next. With funding from the city of Santa Fe and work from our Story Maps Fellows, we also established many site activations, one of which was the Recentering Santa Fe Social Structures exhibit. Next. And that exhibit featured local artists and centered care and responsibility toward one another during the pandemic. Next. The 2020-21 Story Maps Fellows, Christian Gehring and Diego Medina, and Dr. Alicia Inez Guzman also produced an 8-part Tilt podcast, which is our new SFAI's new response to the pandemic of doing virtual programming. I hope many of you have listened to this. It really does. I think they did an excellent job exploring many of the complex histories of this place. Next. And Christian Diego also worked to illustrate Dr. Raul Galvez's land acknowledgement, which was produced through archival research and in consultation with tribal leaders. Next. This was painted as a mural on the Midtown site with multiple participants, including Youthworks and EarthCare. And we really feel that land acknowledgement is such a strong foundation to help all of us think about the future of the Midtown site, to include all of us. Next. And of course, alongside city sponsorship, the NEA Our Town grant helped to fund the block party in October, which SFAI organized and which was pulled off thanks to the collaboration and hard work from all of our partners. And we'll talk more about the block party later, but it certainly was a day of community music, food, and fun. And we all definitely felt that we had, for just one day, manifested a pretty amazing vision for what we can all do in community on the Midtown site. Next. As part of the block party, SFAI worked with SFUAD alumni and faculty to create a scavenger hunt. And this was a way for us to have people sort of do a DIY tour of the site to highlight areas that are really hidden gems that maybe you would only know about if you spent a lot of time there. The public is still invited to participate. There's a kiosk right off St. Michael's Drive from dawn to dusk. Welcome to really take a look and see some of these hidden spots. And really what we've been trying to do next is to just activate the site in ways that do help to develop a sense of welcome and belonging for the entire community, to imagine a future there for all of us. And it's been a tremendous amount of work, but we're very excited and honored to be a part of this group and look forward to further conversation and presenting some of the work. And I'm going to hand that off now. Where is it going? Because Youthworks already presented, Michael.
Goes to Dylan and Little Globe.
Dylan, thank you. Take it away, Dylan.
Hi, I am Dylan Tenorio. Thank you for your time, council members and friends and MEP groups. I am here representing Little Globe, and we're a local nonprofit that focuses on multi-arts and story-based projects that are really basically not trying to be extractive, but really working with the actual community members that we're collaborating with. Next slide. So for the Midtown Block Party, we actually were there to be a microphone for those who were coming to the actual Midtown Block Party, for them to be able to voice what they really wanted to see in the actual space. And so we believe that when a community is heard, it can really thrive. And that is the basis of what we wanted to do in this particular project. And so we were basically having a place for them to voice what they really wanted. And we were just there to listen to them and to make sure that they were able to say what they wanted. Next slide. Here's a video of which that is basically the stuff that we had recorded of the people and their wishes for the actual property and the different ideas that which they want to see.
Lo tenemos en español y en inglés.
Action!
Good afternoon, Nayeli. How are you?
We're doing well.
A lot of us aren't very vocal. We don't go to, city council meetings. I guess we should. We have to start speaking up or else our voices will be lost. I think a lot of people aren't listening to each other anymore. We just all have our own opinions. We all need to just come back together and we need to come up with solutions for all of us, not just for some of us.
Well, I think it would be great if the community, all walks of life, all backgrounds, all ages.
So that the values would be inclusive of many walks of life, many different backgrounds, and kind of be accessible to a lot of different types of people.
I would want the Midtown site to feel comfortable and to where it's fun and you enjoy being there.
It's integrated into the life of the community in multiple ways. It's like a common place where people would be for lots of different reasons.
A place to congregate, to socialize, to learn, to enjoy.
Playgrounds and fun activities for kids to do.
To make it feel like home.
Gardens and art and playgrounds.
Education in one way or another. It could be on sort of the academic side or the artistic side.
I think they need a big area for the indigenous people, like a powwow grounds.
Green chili and all that stuff. We've always been about our culture. So it's I'd like to see art exhibits. I'd like to see, markets.
Facilities for the elderly. It would be nice to see young people and old people because it's very accessible. And I think it should meet those multiple needs.
Green areas, for people to come and enjoy, a community garden.
More public spaces where people could just go and be without always having to pay money, where it could be to learn or to just be together.
We have a full theater here, so I like to see the arts be integrated into some programming here. Small businesses we would like to bring in and just have kind of a multi-layered living structure here as well.
A land trust, so that it stays in the hands of the community forever.
It's just sad to me because a lot of the people I went to high school with, they can't afford to live here anymore. Probably just a matter of time, then I won't be able to afford to live here anymore, And a lot of us locals who were born and raised here, we just can't afford it anymore. It's too expensive.
Over the years, it got more expensive, and then we're forced to basically move out of Section 8. And so I'd probably just like to see affordable housing.
So many things in Santa Fe are really oriented outwards, facing towards tourism. So something that kind of faced inward and was like a center that you could run into people.
Better communicate with one another, be able to be creative with one another, be able to dialogue with other families with a sense of self-determination, a willingness to be uncomfortable and in that space of learning.
It could be a place of ceremony and a place of gratitude and a place of really telling the true history of this land.
It is up to us that decides our future. Right now, we must let the youth and healing lead the way.
I think that's what the point of the Midtown Block Party was, to bring people here, bring everybody together, and they've successfully done that today.
Thank you. And I would just like to say that as Little Globe, our staff is made up of a lot of past alumni as well as teachers that had worked there. And so us together being able to bring voice to the people in the community was a very important task. And we were very much appreciative to also be there with the other MEP groups and to see this broad community really just flourish into something that really is beautiful to see. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening to all of us.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Thank you, everyone. You can maybe see how much work, how much effort, how much love has gone into this process. And here again, gathering all of the various partners without whom none of this would be possible. I know we need to move into summary. I think some people are really interested in numbers. We love the various ways that we collectively and individually gathered information, but this is just using the wide range of methods. Actually, well over 1,500 people, we have more than that, through surveys, 10,000 people at events, and tens of thousands of people reached via email, phone, social media, all these different ways. This is a little kind of at a glance summary of the Midtown Block Party, not just how many people attended, which was amazing, about 1,000, but the meals served, the pumpkins, the scavenger hunts, the silk screens printed, the bikes given away, the mural painters, and all of the many volunteers, again, that made this happen, along with the 31 community filmmakers brought together by Little Globe. The Pozolada on December 19th, similarly, was a collective effort. We see over 500 or about 500 attendees, despite all the COVID protocols that meant people had to stay in their cars. Chainbreaker and everybody pivoted to go from an all outside event around luminarias, et cetera, to a stay in your car and enjoy the music, the presentations, and of course the pozole and the bizcochitos. This was just the surveys collected at the Midtown, at the block party. We had about almost a 50% return rate on those surveys, but we have more information now that the Pozolada kind of book-ended the active engagement process, as Tomas said. And in total now, we have collectively collected and tabulated almost 1,800 surveys. You see that you'll see a great diversity of participation in terms of primary language, gender identity, race and ethnicity, age distribution, quite a tip or a shift from the typical participation. Usually I always say, you have to be eligible for Medicare usually at most public meetings, the income distribution, how long people lived in Santa Fe, the full range from all my life to generations to less than a year. The housing status also very distributed. Of course, some of this represents the fact that the vast majority of the housing stock in Santa Fe is single family homes, but a lot of people rent. We had, I'd say, a significant amount of participation from people who do not have stable housing. And then the distribution by where people lived. Some things emerging from the data. We've been coding the qualitative responses that yield these themes that you see on the left: housing, welcoming and belonging, community control, a desire for cultural services, social services, things that attract and serve youth, along with issues of trust and contributions to economic development or economic opportunity and environmental sustainability. A couple of quotes there for you. At the end, we just want to say we're so much stronger and more effective together than the sum of our separate efforts. So here is the timeline. Our contract started back in August of 2020. Throughout this timeline, we've been challenged more or less, and mostly more, by the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. nonetheless, having it largely virtually, we came to bringing the Midtown engagement partners together, the block party, the Pozolada as the primary activities. And now looking forward, we're in the process of that data analysis and writing the report, the 50% draft coming at the end of this month, and then 90% at the end of February and the end of March for our final report, and our extended contract ends on March 31st. You'll see that we, and then in April, kind of Daniel takes over, starts to integrate the findings and recommendations of the report into the community development plan, which will be the policy document or the policy that translates all of this information into action and ways to inform RFPs, et cetera. We want to add here that we will host a very public event early in March to share the findings and recommendations with the general public. And the Midtown engagement partners will each be hosting their own conversations in their communities, going back to the people with whom they've engaged to affirm the findings and recommendations and add further depth and understanding. Again, and at the end, this process has been amazing. We've learned so much. It's not fast. It doesn't take little time or little effort, but it's community driven. We are proud and humbled to serve as facilitators of this process. And once again, thank the City of Santa Fe, the council, the governing body, and the staff for the sponsorship and commitment. And there are the websites you can check, the Culture Connect site you saw from that Jamie Blosser shared, and the official Midtown District Santa Fe site. We're open to questions. And thank you for your patience and engagement in this presentation. We had a lot to share, and we really thought at best the engagement partners can speak for themselves for their work best.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you to all of the presenters for this presentation and for your work. Alexandra was right. It's very, very impressive, and we are very grateful. I'll turn it over to the committee. Are there any questions from committee members? Councilwoman Villarreal.
You know, I always have questions, so I'll just jump in. I just want to say you all inspire me so much. Every time I hear your presentations, get to be with you in community, it just makes me feel like we are powerful with people-powered initiatives. And it's very obvious that this took a totally different approach. The different approach had completely different results. So I'm just so honored to be able to know all of you in different ways. And I want to honor the commitment you made, the time you've all made, the connections you've made, and the organizing that you have done to be able to get us to this point. So just want to honor all of the community-based organizations, especially navigating these efforts during a pandemic. So just blessings to all of you. Thank you so much. I'm always curious, like how we synthesize what we've gathered, and I know that the results will be collected in hopefully a story form, whether it's like qualitative, the storytelling piece, and then also the quantitative. And I think what you presented to us was helpful. If you could send us what you presented tonight, it's a little bit different than the packet material we had. So if you could email that to us, so I could look at some of the data points a little bit closer. The question I do have is about the findings. And I guess this really is directed to Daniel Hernandez and wanting to understand how what we've collected, what these organizations have collected through surveys, through, as you saw, many different techniques, how is that actually integrated into next steps for redevelopment? So I guess what I'm asking is like how it will be translated into action to inform us as we look into into the next phases of redevelopment?
Well, we're going to use examples that other cities use on creating a community development plan that the governing body will ultimately approve, which will set a series of policies in motion. It'll have requirements for implementation. For example, all RFPs will have X, X, and X. And then there will be, for future development, we would have preferences for X, X, and X based on what we get in the report. So once we get the report, we'll begin the process of organizing it into a community development plan, and we're focusing it on the 4 elements of sustainability. But all of the requirements and preferences and other goals that the report will articulate will get considered and will get incorporated to the extent possible. Some of them may be, stuff that we can't obligate the city to do, but they will, we'll refer to them as goals that the city would, encourage, nurture their development as the years go on. But so anyway, I'm not sure everything that's going to be in the report yet, but you saw a glimpse of what some of the priorities will be, and those will be incorporated into the development plan. We also plan on continuing the work with the Midtown engagement partners after the report is done, and request proposals for them to do engagement work throughout the process of creating the community development plan. So we'll maybe have benchmarks 25% complete, 50% complete, 75% complete, or something like that, so that we can begin unfolding it and getting feedback rather than just giving a finished product back in.
That's great to hear. I think it's important to utilize our community partners, because as we look into these next phases of redevelopment, we need them to be able to translate. And I'm not talking about just language, but accessibility of understanding planning terms, what that means for a community. And I think that we have partners right here in front of us to be able to help with that piece. I think that's going to be extremely important, because planning terms are not accessible. They're not easily understood. They're very jargony. And so I'm hoping that we can be able to utilize our partners to be able to assist us through that process of quote translation. So I look forward to that.
That's a great suggestion. And thank you. Yeah. Making it people friendly.
Yes, we need to be accessible in so many ways. So I think those are all my questions. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just excited to see the fruits of the labor of all of you, and appreciate every aspect of this. I loved the video from Little Globe, and I'm excited to see more, because I know there were a lot more interviews that were captured. So hopefully we'll be able to visually see that, because I think seeing visually what people are saying, what's important to them versus what's on paper as text is completely different. So thank you for capturing that for us. And that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilor Michael Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Michael, and all the community-based partners. I mean, you guys had a heavy task, and you guys made magic happen during the pandemic. And I'm just so grateful that we can call you partners, and that you actually brought so much engagement to the table that we are now going to have to synthesize and take time to really pull it apart, which is awesome. So thank you all. You all should be giving each other pats on your back. I mean, I want to give you all a virtual high five. Just thank you so much. I just got, I guess, one question, and I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure we're moving in this direction. In the packet, and this is slide 62 in the packet, where what people want to find at Midtown, and it's got a list of topics. And I want to make sure that when the data, the report is finalized, that there is data that shows, for example, how many percentage of people responded, they want affordable housing, and so on and so forth. That way we can ensure that we're seeing what the community ultimately feels is a priority. What are we wish we can, but it's not at that top of the priority list. And as we're moving forward with this redevelopment plan, that the governing body will ultimately be seeing I think the timeline is in March, we can make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community ultimately. So I don't know if, Michael, that's a question for you or if it's for Daniel.
I think I can take it, Chair Cassett, Councilor Garcia. Thank you for the question. This is what we're knee deep in right now, where you saw we had over 1,700 survey responses, most of those on paper. So then we went through the process of transcribing them, and then, you know, the spreadsheet and the analysis is going on now. There's a portion of that coding, we call it, like looking for themes in what people are talking about. And those will be kind of quantified also. We had part of the survey. I don't know if you all have seen this. I think you've seen the survey, that there's a portion of it that asks specifically about the Residents' Bill of Rights. And that's where the kind of questions are focused on certain themes. And then we pull out the recurring sub themes within that. And that we do have, you know, kind of a quantitative charts about that. And then we go back to the big open-ended questions where we asked, what is your vision for Midtown? Or what would you like to see happen there? Different organizations ask that question in different ways. And then we'll use those portions to kind of further explain or describe the ways that people talked about these things. So you will see that. We'll have that very soon. We didn't want to share what we had so far because most of that coding has been in English. We're working with two Spanish language translators to code all of the Spanish responses, of which there were several hundred. And we want those to come up at the same time. We don't want to say, oh, we did all the English and here's what we got, and then here comes Spanish, or we just translate it to Spanish. So we're really excited about that. That's something that came out of this collaborative process, and all of us talking together. How do we do that? And you know, so we're in the process of that, and we'll have all of that combined. You know, then we'll reconcile Spanish and English, etc. So I'm learning about all that too. But thanks for my amazing team, Hallie Burt and Emily Ontiveros, graduate students here in the School of Architecture and Planning, who are learning and becoming masters of these processes for bringing that to the table.
If I may just sort of brighten a little bit. So tonight was a presentation we had planned on making in December, which was really to capture the efforts of the public engagement process itself. In the upcoming months, and particularly in March, we will be coming back to you to actually show the data and the report, the makings of the report. So you'll have a better idea about what was said and what the priorities are that will be in the report that will ultimately inform the community on the plan. So tonight was just about the efforts. Next time we come back to you about, well, what did people say? So stay tuned.
Okay, thank you, Michael and Daniel. So I'll call this the appetizer then. And you've got my mouth watering for the next step. But again, I just want to echo the sentiments, you know, from Councilwoman Villarreal. You guys are fantastic. You guys made some great work happen. So thank you all so much. And no other comments or questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions from the committee or comments? I'll just wrap up by echoing the sentiments of my colleagues. Really, the gratitude that I feel and the amazement of what you've managed to accomplish is high. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Michael, did you have something to say?
Oh, I was after your comments.
Oh, okay. But I really, you know, it was interesting to hear about the data analysis. And I know that that was something that I had spoken about at the beginning, was really wanting to make sure that we were, that you were utilizing those qualitative data methods, data analysis methods. And so I'm happy to hear that that is going to be teased out. I know that it is a little bit more challenging than just, you know, a survey with a Likert scale that, you know, says on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like this? And it doesn't leave room for some of the depth and detail and nuance. And so I greatly appreciate you taking on that type of data collection, as well as the analysis is not nearly as straightforward. So thank you to you and your team for really bringing that forward, because I do think it's where you get a lot more value, and you get a lot more of the shape of what it is that people are saying behind just the catchphrases. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And Michael, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Cassett, council members, for your time and for your appreciation and commitment to this process. And I just want to say in closing, yes, we are digging deep as we can into the data, into our communities. And I have to say, and I think you all know this, that again, it's not possible without these partners who are so deeply committed to our communities that yes, the city provided stipends. Each of these organizations received a stipend of between $4,000 and $8,000. I think you could probably imagine the effort comes nowhere close to the value of the effort and the extent of the effort. And I want to thank all of the Midtown engagement partners. Again, it's been a privilege working with you, and we continue to work with you. And thank you again for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here tonight and coming to our meeting. So looking forward to seeing y'all again soon. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to the items that were pulled off consent, starting with item A, a request for approval of amendment number 14 to service contract with Universal Protection Services, LPDBA Allied Universal Security, to adjust the hourly rate charged for security guard level 1, 2, and 3 on duty, with no change to the current. My goodness, this is really long. I'm impressed with Christine right now. To the current not to exceed amount of approximately $4.4 million, et cetera, et cetera. I believe Councilor Garcia, did you pull this one? Mike Garcia?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry for keeping you manual. Just got a quick couple questions. 10% increase, what does that equal out to just in fiscal amount, dollar amounts?
10% contract?
Yeah, it says in the memo that it's a 10% increase, and I guess I was just wondering what that meant, because it was a little unclear.
Okay, so what the increase that we're looking for is actually an increase to the salaries, or what they're charging us per hour for each guard. It actually comes out to about a 20%. It's a 20% increase for that. I look at my memo again. I apologize. But there's no increase to the actual contract itself. It's just there's going to be savings that wasn't expended this year. It'll cover the cost.
Okay, so basically adjusting the hourly rates given to the. Okay, awesome. And then I guess since I've got you on the line, got a quick question, because I was reviewing some of the prior amendments, and you may or not be able to help clarify, and if not, then maybe I'll reach out offline. But in some of the past amendments, we afforded. I think it was an amendment 10 or 12. Amendment 12, allow the Public Works Property Maintenance Manager to authorize and adjust site schedules and hours. And I know that last time this kind of came up, we had some dialogue around the parks and which parks would be serviced. Do you know if we ultimately changed any of the sites, or everything is kind of as is what was presented to us a couple months back, or I can't remember when it was, but the last time this was up for approval?
Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia, I'll have to defer to Sam Burnett to answer that.
Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia, good evening. In the time since we last brought an amendment or Amendment 12 before the governing body, we have had an incredible amount of trouble with Allied being able to fully staff for the existing scope of their contract, and as a result have not been able to add any other sites. We've been working really hard just to cover the sites we currently have under contract. So a long way of saying no, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the long-winded answer, but I appreciate the update. Thank you, Mr. Burnett. And thank you, Manuel. And I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Sam, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, just waving goodbye.
Councilwoman Villarreal, hands up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to let my colleagues that weren't on finance to know that we had a very robust conversation about this contract. It's a little challenging for me. I don't think it's really targeted the areas we need to in a very consistent way. And I appreciate staff trying to make this work. And we're looking at other models that we talked about in finance. And because this didn't expand the amount of money that we're already giving them, which is a hefty amount, that I think was the only reason why that I could approve this or support this. And I just want to see how it goes, and that we'll take it a year at a time to see how this contract, if it improves their service, or if we're going to be looking at other potential businesses or security companies as we move forward. So I just want to let you all know, if you want to know more about the history around this, it's challenging. We've added so much to the plate of this security company, and I really would like us to not be using contract services like this at this level. So staff already knows how I feel about this, but I just wanted to let my colleagues know to pay attention to this contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments or questions from the committee? If not, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilor Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Chavez,
Yes.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving to item E, which is request for approval of a contract in the amount of $909,479 with Youthworks for workforce development services for the Economic Development Department. Janice Krish is here to present, and Councilor Lee Garcia had pulled this. I'm so sorry, I forgot to do this with the last one. I do want to try to be consistent. Can we please get a motion on the floor before we start discussion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Point of clarification. We're doing that for items in committee too?
Yeah, I'm trying to be consistent with what we have established in a governing body so that it is consistent across the board. So, yes. Councilor Garcia, the floor is yours. Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess mostly in regards to Youthworks and how this contract is, where is this mostly being targeted to in regards to where is it being developed, and the youth that are attending or that are part of this group, and how is it being deployed out to businesses that are in need of obviously employment? And so I just kind of want a little bit more elaboration on that.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and councilors. Thank you for that question, Councilor Lee Garcia. I just want to explain that, yes, Youthworks, as you probably know, and you've heard from Jay earlier, is an essential community partner to the city, and they have various employment programs that they've developed and that they service throughout the city. And the program that this RFP focuses on is their WIP program. And the WIP program is the Workforce Innovation Program. So they've been doing this, they've been in partnership with the city for the past 13 years. And so this employment program connects youth to meaningful paid apprenticeships within Santa Fe. And so it offers training and employment pathways for disconnected youth in Santa Fe and northern New Mexico. And they connect with businesses through apprenticeship programs through various industry sectors, such as you're probably most familiar with their culinary arts program. So they have that. They also have a retail management program. They have a thrift store. They have a hospitality program where youth will learn other skills outside of just, working at a hotel, like such as plumbing, electrical, those kinds of skills. They have an energy efficiency retrofit work program. They also have a home health care program. So those are some of the programs that youth are trained in, and through this program with Youthworks, the WIP program. And I could pass it over to Maylin Schuler, who's here, who's the director of Youthworks, to offer any further explanation on that.
Cassett and committee members, my name is Malin, and I am the founder and director of Youthworks. I think that Janice did a fine job of listing some of the training arms that we have built purposely over these 13 years in working with city economic development and the Department of Workforce Solutions and the Federal Department of Labor, utilizing local labor market indicators to help us raise young people into the workforce that were previously disconnected from opportunities given life circumstances. And in good years, not COVID years, we have been able to place up to 110 apprentices with local employers. And your question was also framed around how do we get to those employers? There's a huge marketing push, but 13 years of this work has taught employers to reach out to us as well. So we have a standing list already. If these funds get allocated, to place at least 15 young people out in the community in apprenticeships right away. And I just want to say the director of tourism for the city also called me and asked me to help deploy workers to the restaurants and the hotels, given the economic downturn and the shift of employment and employees. So we have a great system to interact with local employers, including working with all the chambers of commerce.
Thank you. And again, kudos to you guys. It really is very important to be able to give our youth an avenue towards job employment, because not everybody is gonna be on track to go to college and things of this nature, and getting them into skilled labor positions is definitely very, very important in our community. So thank you. And that's all I really have as a question. So
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Garcia, Lee Garcia, pardon me. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can I please get a roll call?
Councilor Villarreal?
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia?
Yes.
Councilor Chavez?
Yes.
Chair Cassette?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, Milan. Good to see you. And thank you, Rich and Janice, as well. But we see you all the time. Moving on to item F. This is the request for the approval of a 2-year construction contract for the completion of 500C CWSRF088 Santa Fe River repairs and bank stabilization Ricardo Bridge to the Don Jose outfall. It looks like, is Zoe here too? Oh, Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Melissa is here. Melissa McDonald is here. This was pulled by Councilwoman Villarreal. Can we please get a motion and a second on the floor to commence discussion?
Well, I guess for discussion purposes, move to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, I will second. Councilwoman Villarreal, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Melissa, for being with us. I just had a couple questions. I'm glad to see this money's moving forward to support this work. It's crucial. We've been waiting a long time. I'm just curious about if this specialized work, is that what limited companies they were able to bid? Why do you think we only got one bid?
Chairwoman, Councilor Villarreal, we were disappointed that others, we did actually have quite a good showing at the pre-bid meeting. I believe that the reason that we didn't get as many bids as we'd have liked was that we have a very, very tight timeline. So this has to begin work, as you can see, beginning of February, and then we end April 15th. So it was a challenging timeline, and I think people felt pushed by that a little bit.
Okay. I was also thinking maybe because it was a different kind of, I don't know, you tell me, but a different bidding process because there's a third party due to the loan program, or I don't know if that necessarily affected people's applying or bidding.
Chairwoman, Councilor Villarreal, no, I actually think most of the folks were pretty excited that we have this new source of funding so that we can accomplish the very lengthy projects or lists that we have. So I think people were excited about it. They wanted to come out and see what it was all about, but we got excellent support, good questions. I feel like it's gonna be a wonderful direction, and people were very happy with it. It wasn't a challenging process. It was a few extra forms, and the folks at NMAD worked really quite well with us to educate people on what they needed to do.
Good to know. And then the other question I had about, there's a break between the substantial completion and then the final walkthrough. Do you think that that would provide you all with an opportunity, or I guess for us to have ability to test, to see like a testing period to see if the repairs and the bank stabilization are working?
Chairwoman, Councilor Villarreal, yeah, I think that's true. We will be able to see how things are working. Ideally, we would have liked to have it all done so that we didn't have such a space. You know, what we're hoping to do is get the main part of the structures done in the riverbed so that we're actually doing the upper structures in the spring. So I think that it is an opportunity for sure.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking it wasn't ideal, but maybe that would give us an opportunity to see if it's working before we do the final walkthrough. But we'll see, I guess, right?
We really need rain. I hope that's true. It's been pretty dry, Councilor.
Yes.
It's been pretty dry.
Yeah. Well, the other question I had is if this area that we're talking about for the bank stabilization, does this capture that runoff channel that you and I have looked at that's near El Rancho Road? And there's this interesting diversion area. Is that going to be kind of included in this stabilization area, or is it outside of that?
Councilor Villarreal, that's a little bit above where we are, but we can look at that and maybe in the next phase when we come back to finish.
Okay, because I feel like it's connected. And there's a connection there with the runoff and the also erosion occurring. So just to flag that for future. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions from the committee? Nope. If not, we have a motion, a second on the floor. Can I please get a roll call?
Councilor Villarreal.
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Lee Garcia.
Yes.
Councilor Chavez.
Yes.
Chair Cassette.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then on to item H, Request for approval of amendment number 1, Santa Fe Public Schools Adelante CDBG contract to add compensation in the amount of $17,000 for a total compensation of $37,106, so that the $20,000 originally allocated to Coming Home Connections Casa Cielo project is redistributed to other public services activities for the 21-22 program year. We have Alexandra Ladd, Director of Office of Affordable Housing, presenting, and Councilor Chavez, you mentioned that you wanted to recuse.
Yes, as an employee of Santa Fe Public Schools, I'll be recusing myself.
Okay, if you can just log off and then I will send you a text when it is time to come back on. Thank you. Okay, and can I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve. A second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion? If not, can we please call for the vote?
Counselor Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Chavez.
She is recused.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chair Cassette,
Yes.
motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra, for sticking with us for that. Have a good night. I will just text Counselor Chavez.
Are we at the end of the agenda? Does she need to come back on?
We are. Unless she had matters from the committee, which I'd like to give her the option to speak for herself if she has.
There she is.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome back, Counselor Chavez. So that completes our business. No action items, no executive sessions. Matters from staff. Loretta, do we have any matters this evening?
Madam Chair, we do not have any matters this evening.
Thank you. And any matters from the committee?
I have one. Just in terms of process, I want us to look again at this motion and second for items that are coming off of a consent agenda. It's different than items that we're considering at council. So I think it gives us a chance to discuss it and then actually have an ability to make a motion and second versus just assuming that we're going to pass it with the motion and to approve or deny, I guess. So I guess that's what I wanted us to just maybe consider, because with our changes with the procedural, I didn't think that committee process is exactly mirrored the processes at council.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters from committee? None? Okay. Matters from chair, I don't have any. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and I will see you all then. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.